Hey, welcome to the Cam and Otis Show. We're a father-son podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems. And on this episode, we're joined by our new friend, our new connection in India, Vikrant Shaurya. And I'm thinking I got at least halfway there. How you doing today, Vikrant?
Yeah, you were very close, Otis, by the way. Thank you so much for having me, Otis and Camden. I'm really, really excited for our conversation today.
So am I. So am I. Because the publishing world, and I know that's where you focus, folks. We'll get into this more, but in that teaser, the publishing world is really, I feel like it's exploded in the last 2 or 3 years. With the self-publishing, the small publishers, it's no longer. I have to sell my book to a company like Random House or Penguin Publishing. How did you get your start and see your niche into this world?
All right, so it's a very long story. Do you want a long story or the short story version?
Somewhere in between. I don't like it really long, but you're gonna have to sit down and take a break, man.
Yeah, sure. All right. So I'll try to keep it short. So very quickly, I think 12, 13 years ago, my dad, who used to be in military, like he asked me, "Hey son, what do you want to become in your life?" And I just graduated from high school, and I had no idea what I'm going to be doing. So I told him, just because all of my friends, they were taking admission in engineering colleges. So I said, I want to become an engineer because I didn't want to sound dumb in front of him. So he said, okay, let's do it then. And he sold his land to get my admission in engineering college. And finally I was there. And the first few days was really good. I was making new friends, making new connections. But I got to know that this is not for me. All the lectures used to be extremely theoretical. And I got to know that eventually the engineer that I would be becoming, I don't want to be that. So I was in 1.5 years of the college, and I went in a college library where I found this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And I read that book. In the very same day, I decided that I'm going to do something of my own. So, and I dropped out of the college the very same day. And very quickly,
What did your dad say when you called him and said you were dropping out?
actually, for next 6 months, I didn't tell him that I dropped out. And it was kind of very weird for me because my dad sent me to a new city, and I used to live over there with some of my friends. I used to share a room with them, and he used to call me every single evening, asking me, "Hey son, how was your college?" Like from the day number one to every single day. And now I have dropped out, but I didn't have courage to tell him that I have dropped out. And this happened for next 6 months, and my goal or my plan was that I'm gonna start a business. I'm gonna become a millionaire in the next 6 months, and then I'm gonna go back to my dad and tell him that, hey, like I've done this. That was the plan. But what happened was, like, in 6 months I was in financial debt. I was bankrupt. I was 20-year old. I had I think $4,500 debt on my name, and my dad still used to call me like, "Hey son, how was your college?" And but I couldn't take it anymore. Like I just wanted to go back to my dad and tell him that I've dropped out. So I went back, and my dad is kind of a very family man. Like I'm the eldest son. Then I have a younger son and younger brother and then younger sister. So that day, like, everyone was together. The entire family was there. So my dad cooked the meal, and on the dinner table, I wanted to disclose exactly what happened, and I couldn't take it. Like, I just told him that, hey, I've dropped out, and and he was like, I saw him, like, he was one of the most toughest guy I've seen in my life, and I saw him crying for the very first time. because for him it was all about his pride. Like he told everybody that my son is gonna be an engineer. He sold his land, and back then, like 12 years ago, online business and everything, it was, people used to think, still there are people like who still used to think, who think that it is scam. And back then my dad thought that I'm going to go in a jail or prison. um, so but
Because you were in debt
no,
or
like
what?
everything, like because I lied to him. Like I told him
Oh,
that I want to become an engineer, and then I didn't even discuss with him that it is not for me, because I knew that he would never allow me to drop out of the college and start my own business. So, and then finally I started a company, and he had no idea exactly what I went through in the last 6 months. So that was kind of very, very upsetting. I saw him crying. I saw my mother crying. He locked himself in a room for 3 days. He was not eating, and but now I had to go back to the city where I used to study. So he actually came out of that room, and then he gave me blessings. Like he hugged me and said, uh, just don't get yourself in trouble, just don't do anything wrong, don't do anything illegal, right? I know you would do something good, but just don't do anything illegal. So it was, but yeah, like we were not in talking terms, like we didn't have any conversation for next 6 months. um, and then when I went back, then the entire new chapter actually began. Like now I was searching online. Like I remember this. I had a broken laptop with a 2G internet speed. I was searching online how to make money online with zero investment, and I discovered self-publishing. Um, that I can write and publish books and make some money out of it. Uh, I, I I wrote my first book in 21 days, and I had no option. Like I just used to keep on writing. Um, so I wrote that book, published that book, uh, and I remember that the first month I made around $25 something. But for me, I saw the opportunity. And the next book I published, it was a very short book, 50 pages book. I published that in less than 3 days. And this time I also did some marketing. And this month I made around $450 from both of these books.
double.
Uh, well, not double actually. The first month I
Oh,
made 25.
Don't do
This
public
$25
math, Dad.
only. The next month I made $450.
yeah. Okay.
So yeah, like I did that, and then I called my dad saying that, hey, I want to give this money to you because you have done a lot of things. I know that you have sold your land and everything, but he told me that I know that you would need that money, so just keep it with you. Now we are in a very good relation. Like we are kind of a best friend, and now he wants to start his own business. Like that's another story. But
Oh
everything has
man.
changed a lot since then. My brother, my sister, everybody is an entrepreneur now. Like they have their own businesses. So
Really?
uh,
No engineers in the family then?
no.
Oh man. That's
Okay,
crazy.
so then I started um, I started writing, publishing books. In long story short, a lot of people started reaching out to me saying that, hey, can you please help me out? I started adding coaching fees. I started helping people with my coaching services. Then a lot of people started reaching out to me, those who are my students, saying that, hey, we really don't have the time to sit down and write the book. And can you offer this service to us? And then I assembled a team of writers, editors, designers, marketers, and then I started offering this service to our clients. So anyone who has no idea or no time, no skill set, like how to write, publish, and market the book, we can turn the book idea and make it a #1 bestseller in 6 months with our services. So this is how actually I went from a college dropout to the founder of
I'm
Author
really
Solutions.
interested when you talk about that 6 months and like having that business plan, wanting to like, okay, I'm gonna prove them all wrong in this first 6 months, and then you have that moment where you come clean about everything. How different was your mentality when you went back into the city? Like, or could you kind of compare and contrast the two? Because it seems like once you got back, it's like that weight was gone and you could finally really work.
Yeah. So first of all, like in my first business as well, like I made a lot of mistakes, right? I of course had this big plans that this is what I'll be doing, and I was taking massive, big steps just in the beginning. Like I hired, I think 6 to 7 employees just in the first month, and I didn't have any
Yep.
real services ready, right? I just hired copyright, content writers, website designers, and then graphic designers, and then eventually I had no money to pay these people, right? Um, and then in the second business, like of course I went very slow. Like I started just with myself, and then I hired one person, the second person, so it was kind of a slow process. But yeah, answering your question, initially, like I had a lot of pressure because I had to prove my dad that, hey, this is what I have done. I was still under the pressure because my landlord used to call me every single day saying, asking that, hey, when are you gonna pay the rent? But um, but still, it was way more easier than like my dad didn't used to call me. Sometimes, like I think in a week or 2 weeks, like my mom used to check whether I'm doing fine or not. And I'm sure that my dad, like she might have informed. She used to call me maybe because my dad was kind of concerned that, hey, how the son is doing. So the second phase was easy because I had all of those barriers, all of those pressure was gone, especially the father son thing. It was gone.
That's a huge thing to come over, and I just want to pause the show and see if Camden needs to tell me anything
Yeah.
that he hasn't been
All
telling
right,
me
hey,
the truth
well,
on in the
now's
last
the time to
6
come
months or
clean.
so.
I'm not in engineering school. All right,
Ah,
no, I really did graduate from the U of A in 2018. I can promise you that. Was not in engineering though.
all right. That, so when you, I mean, you made one run, and you made the mistakes of, ooh, I got to have a staff first, right? What happened to that business when you did that? Did you have to shut it down or lay people off? What happened there?
Yeah, I had to shut down the entire business. I had to let I had 7 employees that time, so I had to let everybody go. And I was very good at convincing people back then, like still I am, but I was just 19-year-old kid, and almost all the employees that I had, they were like 35, 40, 45-year-old, and they actually left some other companies to start working with me. But it was very, very heart wrenching to let them go because they trusted me. And now I always make sure that whether like there were times in my second business that when I was going through some struggling period, I always used to make sure that my employees or my team members, they get their salary on time, right? Every single month. And whenever they have any issues, like any kind of family related issues, like always make sure that we take care of them, because um, I of course it's not only about like the family and culture, it's also about uh, they're kind of a dependent on you. Not only that, their entire family is dependent on this company. So again, this is the kind of impact I'm personally trying to make to to my team members and also
How
the
did
clients that I'm
you
working with.
deal with that emotional toll? Because I could think back to a couple of my earlier companies, and to be fair, the two I'm thinking of, I didn't promise anybody paychecks, but they were working for free with me, and we were putting in all that sweat equity, which is a whole nother conversation. But going through that, and then it didn't work out. I mean, I remember that was the thing that crushed me more than the business not working, was the fact that I had let down those people. So how did you process that and then keep moving forward?
Yeah, for me it was. I really think that is one of my biggest failure, because I was not able to take care of those people who trusted me, and actually there were a few people like who reached out to me saying that, hey, like, we trusted you. My wife used to tell me that, hey, don't trust this guy because this is a very new company, a startup. The idea was really great. If I would have another maybe 2 years of the funding, then of course I would have crushed it. But still, I took some really, really big steps just in the beginning, and we were not very, very market ready. But I know, like, I became very emotional. Of course, I went there one-on-one. I told them this what happened. Although I tried my best to actually provide all the detail, all the things. For example, I provide the experience letter and the letter of recommendation so that they can use it to get new companies. And of course, all of them, like, I'm still in talking terms with these people. But yeah, now they are settled. Like, they don't have any issues. But back then, of course, it was tough for me, tough for them as well, tough for their family.
What was it when you started the second business? It was the same publishing theory, right?
No. So the second business, like, I didn't start it intentionally that, hey, I'm gonna start a business. I went very solo, right? I started working on my own books, right? I started publishing my own books, and my goal was not to start a company back then. And I started working on there, and I started helping people as a coach, right? Again, I was just one person team, that's it. And then again, I started launching some courses, some ebooks in international market about how to write, publish, and market the book. Again, I was doing all of these things alone. When people started reaching out to me that, hey, can you help me with these things? Then I started hiring people, but again, not on the full-time basis, on the contract basis. So, for example, if we need a ghostwriter, like, we used to pay them for project-to-project basis, not the full-time employee. Now, of course, we have full-time employees. Now we are way more settled than back then. But the first company was actually different. Like, it was an investment space. The idea was all about creating a platform where investors and entrepreneurs can meet. Investors can find out companies that are and they can invest in those companies, and companies or startups can actually find investors so that they can get the funding. That was the plan. It was more in fintech space. Now, of course, it's completely different. Like, it's the publishing space.
How did you? Let me see. I had this on the tip of my tongue. When you shifted to the vision, when you realized that I want to continue to expand and help more people. From I just got to make $1. Let me write another book. Let me write another post. And shift that from it being the solopreneur to the entrepreneur, where it's growing the business into something viable. What was kind of that? Was it a light bulb moment, or did it just kind of progress?
Yeah, it was a progressive. The mistake that I made in the first business, I really didn't make it over here. I'm very, very kind of selective of who I want to hire and who I want to work with, because it becomes very difficult for me to let them go, right, or fire them. And of course, there's some times like when for example, so any team member like were really doing wrong, or maybe they are not working, or even after a lot of warnings, they are not very productive, or they are not doing the task on the daily task. Still, it becomes very difficult for me to let them go, right? So now we have a head of operations, right? Someone like who manages the entire team, manages all of the employees. So if anything happens, like I'm not good at doing this, so I just tell her that, hey, this is what is happening, and then she takes care of all the formalities. But yeah, like we try our best so that they can improve, like 2-3 warnings in case if something is they are doing really wrong. But if it doesn't work, then of course we don't have any option. We let them go, but I don't take care of that. Someone else do this job.
What
for me.
what was the changes that you made when you realized we kind of talked about, like, it's like almost like the accidental business of you were kind of going through the solopreneur thing, and then it kept building and building and building. At what point did you say, okay, hey, I see what I have here and I want to make this a business, I want to create the vision, write the business plan, whatever it was for you to really take it to that next level?
Yeah, it was when I think it was in 10 years ago when I had more than 1,000 of students, right, who were going through my courses on how to write and publish the book. And I think more than 50 people reached out to me asking that, hey, how can I find someone who can write the book for me on my behalf? And then I did some research on the market, and I realized that the market is very huge. Almost like Otis and Camden, like all the books that you see, like top 1% authors, like especially in the nonfiction or the memoir or the autobiography space, these books are actually not written by the author themselves. So all the famous books that you know, like Stephen Covey's book, the 7 highly effective habits of successful people, or Richard Branson's book, like Losing My Virginity, even Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. All of these books like are ghost-written. They were not written by the author himself. And think about it, like they are very busy, like these top 1% people, and they don't have the time to sit down and write the book. And also they don't have the skill set to write a book, right? Writing an email is a different skill set than writing a book, right? It's a completely different skill set. So again, I'm also not a good writer. English is not my first language. So even the books that I wrote and published, the new books, like not under my pen names, they were written by someone else, right? When I had the funds to pay them. So I created the system for myself. I'm not a good writer, and how I would find a ghostwriter and how I would deal with them, and how a ghostwriter can actually understand my book idea, my message, my stories and vision, and then write the book for me in my authentic voice. I created the entire system, and I'm actually offering that to our clients. So now, even if someone has a very rough book idea, they can come to us and we can take it up from A to Z, and we can take care of the entire publishing journey for them, right? So this is exactly what we have done to our clients.
Talking about that top 1% and the ghostwriting there, that's something I definitely didn't know. Not jumping ahead to what did we learn, Dad? Don't worry. But what that makes me think of, and you're the perfect person to ask this, Vikrant, is, do you think that the fact that Richard Branson didn't write that book, do you think that detracts from the value at all? Do you think that reduces it at all? Because I think when you see somebody's name on it, you're like, oh my gosh, he wrote this, he took the time, he did all this, and then to separate that into a ghostwriter, it's like, okay, was it really his ideas? How much was it the ghostwriter? Like, there's so many kind of questions that come up in that gray area. So I'll re-ask it. Make the case for ghostwriters. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I believe that if you're going to be hiring a ghostwriter, a really good ghostwriter, they can enhance the book, and they can still take the book, you take your own authentic voice and actually write the book in your voice, right? think about it. Like, for example, if someone is a leader, right? If someone is the owner of the company and they are starting a business, they don't do all of the things, right? They don't do the content writing for the website. They don't do the designing. They don't do the logo designing. They don't create videos or animation videos. They are someone else like who do that. But this leader or this owner has the vision exactly where, how the website should look. But they have hired someone else to do it. That doesn't mean that the final website is going to be not good. It actually makes sure that all of these people like who have worked with this guy or this owner, they have more experience than them, right? In their own respective fields. Maybe this owner has experience about something else, but not the content writing, but not the website designing, not the logo designing, not the video thing. So everybody did their own work. So even in the book publishing space, you don't only have to write the book, you have to also do the editing, proofreading, cover designing, book formatting, then you have to publish, distribute the book, and all of these services. Like, you don't have to do this all of yourself to call yourself an author. If you were just writing the book, you are just a writer, the book writer. But if your main vision or your main idea, your message is still in the book, you are the main author. Because as an author, you are the main authority. So think about it. Even like there hundreds of books by Buddhas, right? If you know Buddha or Jesus, right? Like, so they didn't write the book themselves. They were actually just speaking, and there was someone else like who was scribing this, right? And then still, we know that they write the book. They wrote the book, right? These are like, we follow them. These are our ideals. So the same thing is actually happening over here as well. The main idea, the main vision of the book is still intact in the book, and this is the goal of a really good ghostwriter, to exactly understand your book idea, your vision, your message, and then understand it and write the book for you.
How different do you think the skill set is for a author versus a ghostwriter?
So as an author, for example, like, let me keep it on myself. I have a vision that I'm going to write a book about, for example, productivity, right? I know just the main points, exactly what I have done in my life to do it, and maybe top 10 things that are extremely important to be more productive. But when it comes to conveying this message and actually making the reader understand those ideologies or those bullet points or those ideas, it is maybe like, I'm not a good writer, so it would be very difficult for me to convince the writer and actually help those writers. Your main goal as an author is to really help your reader go from point A to point B. And point A is they're having some problems or setbacks or struggles, and point B is that they have overcome those problems and achieve what they wanted to achieve. And in case, if you would think that, hey, only I can write the book, then only I can become an author, then I believe that you are not doing justice to your readers or to this world, because you are being very selfish that only I can write this book to call myself an author. There's this ego thing coming over here. So all these top 1%, like even more than 50% books that you see, like especially the nonfiction books, they were not written by themselves. There was somebody else like who has written more than 20, 25, 50 books, and they are doing it for more than 20 years. They have way more knowledge, way more skill set than you to do it. For example, Otis and Camden, like, you are very good at podcasting, right? Like, you are very great hosts. But if I want to become a host, I don't know like what kind of questions to ask, how to keep the conversation flowing very naturally. It is not my skill set. Maybe I can learn, but it can take me months or years, right? So this is the difference. Like, the author can learn that book writing skill set, but still it can waste a lot of his time, a lot of his energy. He could have done what he is best at, right? Serving people. Like maybe he's good at coaching or consultation. So he can do what he's doing the best, and the ghostwriter or the book writer can do what he's doing the best.
This episode of the Cam and Otis Show. If you're enjoying this conversation, then make sure to share it with other lifelong learners in your life so they can enjoy it too. Stay up to date with the show on Facebook and Instagram at Cam and Otis Show, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube so you're the first to hear about new episodes and other special content. Now let's get back to the show.
And I'll vouch for everything you said, since my book there, I wrote it, I hired a publisher, they had an editor that edited it, sent it back to me, I had to review, and boy, at that point I was like, I don't even want to touch it anymore. it's every time I think about it, even those times, and Miss Suzanne saying, you should write your second book, you should write, and I'm like, but so I'm right there with you, because yeah, it took a lot of time to just put the words on the paper.
Definitely.
And then when you think you're done, guess what? You ain't, because then they're going to send it back to you, and you got to go through and edit it, and then you got to create the image on the front, and then you got to send it out, and I will 100% vouch that in my second book will not follow the same process that I followed on that book. So. What I'm curious about, what was popping into my head this whole time, is you're the small guy. How do you compete with the bigs? Because of course the top 1%, the Tony Robbins, Richard Branson, Bezos, all these guys that everybody wants to read how they became super successful, right? How they wrote their books. They end up with, at least from my perspective, they always end up in a big name publishing house, right? Because they can afford it too, right? So how do you compete in that market space?
So eventually, for example, if a traditional publishing book is there in the market, and if your book is there in the market, like which is self-published, honestly, if I am a reader, and when I go to a bookstore, I don't get a book and check quickly exactly who is the publisher, whether it is a traditional published book or a self-published book. It doesn't matter. All it matters is how professional the book is, like whether is it way more appealing that from the book cover or the back cover or some of the pages or the table of content, is it really, like the person, is he really convinced that this book can actually take me from point A to point B or can help me solve my problems? If yes, he's going to buy the book, no matter whether the book is self-published or traditionally published book. Now, for example, the big brand or the big names, of course, definitely, even if they would go with the self-publishing route, still people are going to be buying those books. There's so many examples out there, like those people who have published their book as a self-published book, right? And still, the book became very, very successful. All the difference is basically, with traditionally published books, they can take care of the editing, and then the designing and the distribution. But eventually, the marketing part, you have to do it on your own. Tony Robbins and all of these big guys or big names, they do the marketing of the book themselves. Publishing companies, they don't do it. Right, so that's the myth that, like, for example, you have gone through the traditionally published books process. They don't do any kind of activity for the marketing of the book. Maybe they can help you with the distribution, but eventually, like, they won't run Amazon ads, they won't do the email list promotion or social media marketing for the book. You have to do it as an author, but at the same time, they will take majority of the royalty from the book, maybe 50%, 70%, 90%, depending on what kind of contract you have with the publisher. So for the reader, it doesn't matter. 0% value. Like, I know some of my friends, like, their book are bestsellers for more than 5 years straight away. And those books were self-published, and they had offers for traditionally publishing companies, but still they chose self-publishing route because they knew that they're going to be getting more control, more ownership of the book, and more creative control of the book if they will go with this route.
Where does and I'm going to address what I'm considering the elephant in the room. What does AI and that whole aspect of being able to have a bot spit out stories, copy, everybody, that's what everybody's talking about now. Do you see that affecting the publishing, the author industry, and how?
I think AI is kind of very new when it comes to writing the book, but I believe that in 5 years, this will change everything. I think maybe in less than 5 years. I actually created a YouTube video maybe a few weeks ago, like how you can use ChatGPT to write the book in less than 10 minutes. Right? So, and yeah, 10 minutes is kind of very, very short, but eventually, if someone is smart and if they know how to use ChatGPT and provide the right prompt, trust me, anyone can write a book in less than 7 days, and really good books, really, really good book. And that doesn't mean that it won't reflect your own personality in the book. If you are very smart and if you use the right prompt with ChatGPT, it can really produce a very good book. But in 3 years, 5 years, everything is going to change. I think you would just type, maybe write a 50,000 words book for me about productivity, bang, it can actually produce it. So now, like, I guess a few months ago, just ChatGPT 3 launched, and then ChatGPT 3.5 launched, and then ChatGPT 4 is now live. And things have changed a lot since then. Think about it like when it would be ChatGPT 100, right? What kind of functionalities and power it would have, what kind of data points or algorithm, how powerful that algorithm would be. You just have to provide one prompt and it can do everything for you.
Do you see there being almost like it was like the blue check thing for Twitter, that you were like you are you sort of thing? Do you see that maybe being part of publishing, that like, yeah, Otis wrote this book, not a bot?
I think it would be very difficult for, like, AI is gonna be way more smarter in the future. So unless the author will tell that, hey, I've used AI or the chat GPT to write my book, nobody's going to get to know that.
Yeah, because it's no different than a ghostwriter.
This
right?
is an interesting thing, actually. There's a podcast I listened to, and they played a video. And if y'all haven't seen this, Google it afterwards. It's a robot with the facial muscles and all of that hooked up to Chat GPT 4 and like giving an interview with a local news program. It's freaking creepy. All right, if you're not worried about AI taking jobs, it's creepy. But the really interesting thing they said afterwards was like, that robot's going to take our job doing the podcast and all these kind of things. And they started joking, and I think this is really what it would look like, but it's the branding of made by humans. We're real people talking right now, and it's not going to be as high quality as you might want, but we're people. And it's almost going to be like we talk about with a couple weeks ago, Dad, we had that conversation talking about music and how it's like people want vinyl, people want records, other people want 4K HD streaming. Like, there's a split there. People are going to want the AI books, but I think that there's still going to be that other market where it's like, no, these ones were written by humans. Now, I don't know where ghostwriters fall into that, because it would still be human, but then also, I don't know. That's another question, I guess, but...
Not.
Yeah, like there's another tool called Midjourney that, like, with just one prompt, it can actually design any sort of graphic that you want to get from that. So in just few seconds, in just less than 10 seconds, it can illustrate so beautifully, right? So amazing. Like, you can't even imagine how powerful it is. So I've used it personally.
I gotta,
It's mind-blowing
laugh at
if you're
that
gonna give
because
it a try.
as much as I'm sitting here like, yeah, made by humans, I got a tattoo a few months ago, and the original art is from an AI. So yeah, oh my gosh.
That's right.
So how do you see that? How do you see that playing out into the business aspect? Because I think one of the big things is, when we talk AI, anything in that realm is, okay, it's going to make an impact. We're not really sure what the impact is. It'll probably be big. But, like, what can I do now to prepare? So how are you approaching that? Are you staying up all night trying to stay on top of it? Or are you a little bit more like, hey, when it comes, and we'll see what happens?
For us, like we are trying to go with the AI thing. So we used to have three packages. No, we used to have two packages. One, number one, Amazon best-selling book package. The second was Wall Street Journal best-selling book package. Means we can take the book ID and make it number one Amazon best-selling book. This is the one package. The second is we can make it Wall Street Journal best-selling book package. And this includes everything, like writing the book by a ghostwriter, editing, designing, publishing, ISP, and everything. And then the third package that we have introduced 3 months ago was you write the book using ChatGPT, and we have training for that, exactly how you can do that. And then we take care of all the remaining things like editing, designing, publishing, marketing. So still, and they're going to save 50% of the money from that, right? So they don't have to hire a ghostwriter for that. They can do everything, the entire book writing themselves very quickly, maybe less than 1 month, using ChatGPT, and we have a proper step-by-step training on how to do it. And they can do it, and then of course we take care of all the other steps like editing, designing, publishing, marketing. So we are trying to go with the trend, and I know that it is going to change a lot because maybe the book cover designing is going to be done by AI in a few months. Maybe the publishing, I don't know. But marketing, of course, you need some human aspects. But in the marketing as well, for example, the creative copies like social media content, the graphic elements, these can actually take care by AI. But I think in upcoming 2 to 3 years, like they need some human control as well, right? Human has to control all of these things. I don't know exactly what's going to happen after 3 years, but someone has to provide these prompts to actually make these things happen. So we are trying to go with the trend.
It makes me wonder because I've played around a little bit just in the last week with, typing in some prompts to ChatGPT and getting feedback and going, okay, well, it's not wrong. But what it really makes me wonder is, will the usefulness of nonfiction books fade because of that? The how-to books, right? Like how do I be a great leader? How do I start a business? Do you think that AI is going to kind of chip away at some of that?
Yeah, like again, it always like if you provide the right prompt and basically with the ChatGPT, just because it is a chat system, you can communicate, you can guide ChatGPT that how to improve it. For example, you mentioned that, hey, create a book outline about a leadership book. Then it actually creates the table of content and everything. Then you can guide it, hey, like, please remove the fourth chapter and add this chapter, right? And add these 2 more chapters as well. And you can actually guide, you can chat just like a friend or kind of a ghostwriter that, hey, I want to improve something like this. This actually happens with a ghostwriter as well. You provide something like some input, like you talk something, and then ghostwriter comes up with, for example, a book outline, and then maybe chapter 1, and then eventually you have to go through that and you have to provide feedback. The same thing you have to do it with the ChatGPT. You have to, like, you provide the prompt, it is going to write it, and then you have eventually to provide the feedback directly in that chat itself. You don't have to, like, you have to communicate with that ChatGPT to actually, so that the ChatGPT can understand you and exactly what you want to achieve. So it is like a ghostwriting system, but way more faster, way more advanced, and way more, I think you would be working with maybe 1,000 ghostwriters all at once with the help of ChatGPT. right? Just because
Wow.
the knowledge that ChatGPT has and the data points that it has is massive.
And I have some thoughts actually on what you were saying there, Dad, because I think that, kind of going back to like the music example, that I don't know if it's necessarily going to be a replacement ever. I think that a lot of interruptions wind up being, the substitute goods, to put into economic terms, where it's something else there, and a lot of people will choose it, but then there's still going to be the alternatives of, when we start talking about writing specifically, it makes me think of, like streaming TV nowadays. And when we talk about, TV, Netflix, HBO, Hulu, all these different things, there's this really interesting thing that's happened over the last, 20 years really, where we are all watching our specific shows now. And we're not all watching the generic show, we're all watching the specifics. And I don't know, of course, but my thought on it would be that in the writing realm, those niche things, I think you're going to want the human component, because as much as, the prompts and the AI writing's going to be really good, it's going to hit 90% of the population. But then, to take just an example of, it's like, well, but if you want to hear how to start a great business from a guy in Arizona who coaches rugby and is an entrepreneur, it's like, okay, it might not be able to do that, and then that's still going to have its own niche off to the side there. And I think that's one of the things that we'll probably see, is that kind of splintering that we've seen in other forms of entertainment over the last 20 years. Vikrant, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, or if that sounds like it has any truth to it.
Yeah, like there was one guy like who is very much into the AI thing. Like he's kind of a he has some friends like who is behind ChatGPT. He mentioned to me that there are some companies who are working on artificial intelligence where in just a few years there would be robots who are going to be taking sales calls, who would be teaching languages instead of humans, right? And he told me that eventually in upcoming years, most of the people, like 99% of the people, would prefer AI or robots over human, because with human there are chances of making mistakes. But for example, if I want to learn Spanish, and if someone has experience with like who maybe are born in Spain and everything, maybe he can teach me, but he might make some mistakes. But if I'm talking with a robot, and he would be perfectly fine, like he is gonna guide me perfectly fine, like there would be no chance of error at all. So even like sales calls as well, these, like we as a human being, we have to remember the script. We have to always remember like what kind of questions to ask to the prospect and how to close the deal. But these sales robots or these sales guys, like that was going to operated by AI, they have maybe tens of thousands of data points on how to close the deal. For example, if this objections come, exactly how to deal with that objection, right? If a new objection comes, which is not the part of the sales script, how to deal with that. They already know that. It is in the system. So eventually, like AI is going to be way more ahead than the human. Of course, there would be some people like who would appreciate human to human connection, but when metaverse is going to come and all of these new technologies going to come, things are going to change a lot.
I do think one interesting thing there, and it's something generational perspective of, as much as we might say, I need the human.
Yes.
Some kid who grew up with an iPad his entire life, he doesn't need a human. Like, come on, get that out of here. Like, oh, one other things I was really curious about, shifting out of the AI, but actually really kind of in the same vein of the quality of the product and that process. We talk a lot on the show about controlling the outcome. So you talked about getting them bestseller, Amazon, Wall Street Journal, these different packages. You can control the outcome. You control the product that actually comes out, because with the ghostwriting team and with your team there. But the piece that I'm curious about how you control is the writer coming to you. Are you turning people down? If somebody has a terrible book idea, are you turning it into a good book and hoping that they're okay with it, even though it's not as much theirs anymore? Or what does that vetting process look like?
Yeah, so first of all, we simply don't work with fiction books. Like whenever someone schedules a call, say, asking that, hey, can you help us write it? We don't have any that much expertise in that. Almost all the ghostwriters we have, they have experience in writing non-fiction books, autobiography, memoirs, self-help books. So we simply turn down like the fiction authors, and then we also ask our potential clients that, hey, how do you want to use this book, right? Is there any if like we always try to set up the expectation, like if their goal is to become millionaire just from the book sales, it is really possible, right? Unless they have a back end business and they want to use the book to make big money in the back end, then of course we can help them out. If they have a wrong expectation that, hey, like I'm gonna write a book and I'm gonna be the next J.K. Rowling's, we try to set up that expectation. If they don't buy on that, then of course we tell them that, like, we can't help you out with that. So so these are some of the things that we actually make sure before we take new clients. And whenever a new client comes, like we take care of not only the book writing, publishing, and marketing, we also try to create a personalized marketing plan on how they can use this book to make an additional $10,000 per month. Like how they can actually use it, maybe to generate more clients, get speaking gigs, generate leads, because that is possible with the book. And if people can actually write a really good book and use it in a right way, then they can actually make, like we have got some clients like who are making $500,000 a month using their book. So that can be possible if you are writing a really good book, if you have presented the book in a right way, like having really good book cover and book nice formatting, and then publishing the right pricing, and then do the right promotion. So yeah, like this is how our process looks like.
I think that is such an important thing because, like I used to be, I thought, and very similar to the business too, is all right. I wrote a book. Where is everybody? That's there. It is. People should be calling me, but it's all about the whole campaign. My buddy Ethan always pokes me in the chest and says, "What's the strategy for that?" Right? You're doing a tactical thing here. What's the how does it fit into your strategy? And I think you just hit the nail on the head with that. Is if you're just writing a book, it's kind of like my metaphor of I put a sign out in my yard that says "Business open," and sit on the front porch and wait for the crowds to line up. And it doesn't work that way. There's a lot that goes into it, and I think that is one of the key pieces that a great business like yours brings to the client is that whole package. It's not just you write something, we'll make sure it sounds right, good grammar, and then we'll put it in a hardbound book sort of thing, and success. But there's more to it than that, and I think that's a great piece for people to understand. I'll pause there because I'd love to hear your thoughts on that and add to it.
Yeah, actually, just like your podcast name, Tribe Plus Purpose, it actually applies to the book industry as well. Whenever you're writing the book, you always have to think about the tribe. Who exactly is the person who would get benefit out of this book? Because eventually you are not writing the book for yourself, you're writing the book for the end reader who's going to go from point A to point B. You always have to keep your tribe in your mind, and if you can write the book for them, and of course so that they can actually go from journey from point A to point B, it would be very easy for you to sell the book for a very, very long period of time. The second main element is a purpose. Like you have to understand, you have to actually define what is the purpose for you to write the book. Is it to just share your story? Is it to help people? Or is it to get more clients or build your brand or get more speaking gigs? And eventually you have to create a balance between purpose plus tribe. For example, if your goal is to generate leads using the book, then maybe you can offer something inside the book for free in exchange of the email address. So people can actually click on that link, like on the Kindle book, and it's going to take them on a website where they can actually add the email address to get that gift. And then you can start generating leads. So whatever your goal is, whatever the purpose is, you have to follow that direction in order to make sure that it also fulfills what exactly is the need of tribe. If you can just focus on these two things, like tribe plus purpose, it would be very easy for you to become a successful author and profitable
there's
author.
One more question that came to mind in that last chunk of our conversation, and you kind of hinted at this, but I want to ask it directly. Of not working with fiction, is that, and you said because your team knows nonfiction, you know you can be successful there. Is that because nonfiction is way more objective, whereas fiction is so subjective? Of it, you use J.K. Rowling as an example. Some people don't even like wizards. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you could write this perfect book. People will be like, I don't even care about wizards. I'm not going to read that. Like, is it that subjectivity? Is that where that came from?
No. So one of the reason is because if someone is a fiction author, their main purpose is to make money directly from the book sales. They have no back-end business. They don't know how to leverage the book to build their brand and everything. Their main goal is to make money from the book's royalties. And we can control the book marketing for a few months, maybe 3 months or 6 months, but eventually we can't fulfill their expectations of exactly what's their goal is, right? But with the nonfiction books, most of the people, or some of the people actually, like who want to do it right, they have some type of business. Like, especially like we really enjoy working with professionals or established business owners or speakers or coaches and consultants who want to use the book as a medium to grow their brand, grow their business, and grow the impact they want to make. So and that is definitely possible for the nonfiction authors. So one of the reasons, like, why we simply put down don't work with fiction authors, because they're just after the book's royalties. Like, we can't help with that.
That is I love the delineation, and that was very clear reasoning. And I think that's a great point for every business owner, founder out there, is very clear delineation on what you do and why you do it, and then holding to it. Because I've seen so many businesses start off with this laser focus and get a couple of successes, and then they get into the good idea fairy, sprinkling dust everywhere, and they wonder why their business isn't progressing anymore. So I think that's awesome that you have that clarity. And in the obvious observation that I am from the generation of the Terminator, and I spent my afternoons as a kid catching crawdads in the sewer water that other mama would call it. It wasn't sewer water, other mama. I tell her that all the time, but that's what she believed. For me, just the more I dive into the opportunity with AI, the more I see it as a tool, much like, and I'm going hardcore old school, much like the difference between an air-powered impact wrench and me with a little ratchet wrench going.
Yeah.
It's exactly like that. I mean, if you think about it, if I'm taking a bolt off and I'm doing this kind of movement, I've got 20 degrees of movement, and I'm trying to take that bolt out. But if I got an impact wrench, air-powered impact wrench, I put it on there and zip.
Exactly.
That's the way we have to look at AI. It's that kind of a tool. It provides, I can even use the word impact. It provides that kind of impact. So for me, that's what I learned. You both described it really well of how it can fit in and what it can do. And believe me, I'm still going to think Skynet is still coming. That will never go away, folks, because I really and truly grew up in the Terminator age. So yeah.
I want to add one thing there
What'd you learn?
of just whenever we talk about the predicting the future, whatever it is, it's always the and, not the or. All of these different things that we're talking about with AI, it's probably going to be every one of them. You know what I mean? Like the Skynet, is the whole world going to go? No. Is some city going to get terrorized by a robot once? Probably. Like, is that like, those things are in the realm of possibility. I think that's an important thing when we're looking towards the future of, it's not either or, it's both and usually. But so just to add that, but no, the real thing is that I learned was the proliferation of ghostwriting. I had no idea how big of an industry it was, how many people use it, of books that we know that were written by ghostwriters, and that's a really interesting thing. Takes me back to the AI conversation of, do we need a little disclaimer down there? Because it was written by a ghostwriter. I don't even know if they do that. But yeah, no, that was super interesting and kind of changes my perspective on a lot of writing and a lot of books I've read, probably.
Vikrant, what'd you learn?
Yeah, so for me, like again, the AI thing, I see it, this analogy where a few years ago, people used to do all of the accounting on maybe the paper, or they used to have files, and then they shifted to computers or laptops, and the internet came, and there were a lot of jobs that were gone, but the new jobs actually came into the market after computer, after the internet, and I think after the AI, the same thing is going to happen. So again, just like the book writing space as well, maybe thousands of years ago, people used to write it on stone, right? And then people started writing it on paper, and then people started writing on computer, right? Just typing. And now people start having another ghostwriter. They just used to speak, and someone else used to write it. And now they're going to be doing the same thing with AI, like just robots. Like they just have to type, and then it is going to produce it. Maybe down the line, you just have to think, and then the entire book is there. I don't know what can happen. Like you can't predict it, because there was this one, there were some people like who used to say, like just 4 or 5 years ago, that AI is going to first of all take the jobs of like low wages, like for example, manual task, like very, very kind of a boring task. It can't take the creative task, right? It can't take away the creative task. But it is happening the other way around. It is taking the creative task first, right? For example, the content writing, the graphic designing, all of these tasks are getting gone. Even the music space that you were talking about, Camden, there are now AI tools right now. They just provide the prompt that, hey, I need this kind of mood with this type of tone, and I need this type of sound. It can, like within a few seconds, it can just produce the entire music background, like the entire track, in just few seconds. So things are going to be changing a lot down the line. So of course, it was really, really great learning all of these things from you.
Yeah, awesome. How do folks follow you? Maybe, and as they should, hire you to write their next book.
Yeah, people can simply go to authorsonmission.com, where they can find out hundreds of case studies and testimonials of people like who have worked with us and gone through our services. And in case if they think that this is the right fit, simply they can book a call with us and we can take it from there.
Awesome. Love it, man. Vikrant, it is so good to hang out with you today. We appreciate you. I know you play the business hour game offset, but we do appreciate you spending some of your evening with us today.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I really love talking to you guys.
All right.
Great.
Thank you all for
Camden,
listening to the
run us
Cam
out.
Notice Show, and a special thanks to our guest, Vikrant Shaurya, for joining us today. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to pass it along to someone else so they could enjoy it too. Make sure to follow the Cam Notice Show on Facebook and Instagram, and you can watch full videos of the show on our YouTube page. And while you're there, make sure you hit that subscribe button too. As always, the full archive of our episodes is available at www.camnoticeshow.com. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next time.